Now we're heading into the garden with Dabney Morgan. Dabney is back, and we haven't seen you for a little while. We had a video from you last week. You gave us some tips about mosquito control and also that owl, too, that you had in the video. That was awesome. But what do we got for today? What do you have here?
Well, first off, I'm glad you mentioned Father's Day, and I hope my children are watching because tomorrow is the day. Well, that's what we brought along, some gifts for Dad, pruners, gloves, and a succulent garden. You know, and everybody always needs another pair of pruners if they're really a gardener outdoors.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's good stuff right there, too. Now, one thing that everyone seems to be talking about on our Facebook page today is about ivy control. There's ivy growing up trunks. A question here by Debbie Preston saying ivy is growing up the trunks of her trees or pecan trees. How do you get rid of it?
Okay, you know, of course, the problem is when we're getting all these rains at one time, ivy loves that, and you're getting all this flush of growth. What I like to do, whatever's climbing up the tree, cut it off at the ground level. Then when it starts to re-sprout again at the ground, we can spray. There's a number of sprays. Brush killer is a very good product as long as you don't have young plants nearby, because brush killer will go into the soil a little bit on young plants. Now, as far as big trees like that, it's not a problem. Also, we have glyphosates. They're contact killers. Pretty much anything you use to spray ivy, you're better off to spray on the new growth. That's why we want to cut it back and let it start to come out close to the ground. Those areas that are on the ground as we speak now, we can go ahead and spray those. Keep in mind that when you do spray ivy, you're going to probably have to do it a couple of times, and you're going to find it's a slow death. You don't spray today and all of a sudden tomorrow it's just gone. It takes a while so you have to be patient, but you can control it, and definitely if you don't do anything, it can get out of hand. I can attest for that because I've got a lot of natural areas, and where at one time, I have to admit, I planted ivy because I wanted it, but now it's really become a nuisance, so I'm trying to control it.
What about bushes, though? Someone's saying about bushes, can you spray that chemical on it?
No, there's nothing that we can spray. If the ivy's up in the bushes, there's nothing we can spray just to affect the ivy without hurting the bushes.
Okay.
So you're going to have to pull it out. And then the one nice thing about glyphosates, and then there's also a couple of natural contact products, we can use it on the ivy as long as we don't put it on the foliage of the bush. But whatever you're going to use, folks, always be sure, read the directions. If you have any questions, you're there at the garden center buying it, ask them to reinforce that. But do whatever they say. Also, you want to read directions and make sure what they're telling you is in conjunction with the directions.
Okay, great. Good to know. Thanks. And then Cindy has a question here. She has a few different varieties of peppers, mild to hot. The leaves are starting to fall off, and mostly on the bottom part of the plant. She's also commenting that there's a few small bugs flying around it. What could she do to stop that?
Well, of course, there's any number of natural sprays available to spray. If you're actually seeing the insects land on your pepper plants, as far as the bottom leaves dropping off, it could possibly be that they're being kept a little too wet. But then again, they may be growing taller. I mean, as plants grow up, they are going to lose a few of the bottom leaves, but we are getting some overwater damage, no question, because when we've had the rain, we've had so much at one time. If the plants, any type plant, if you really feel like it's being stressed, one thing you can do to help is just take a stick or something, punch holes around your plant, 6 or 8 holes, just to allow air to get to the root system, and if there is excess water, to run off the root ball.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have some potted plants out on my my patio, and this rain that we've had, I mean, it sits in those trays. You got to make sure you empty those trays out.
Good point, Jeff. You're right. You're really getting into it.
Hey, you know, I've been listening to you for a little while, Dabney. It starts to rub off. But hey, my thumb's turning green. There we go. But thanks for answering some of those questions. A lot of stuff about ivy today too, which is great. We'll be back with some more news and a last check on weather coming up right after this break.